You guys have definitely met her before. This is Dee Dee. She was my roommate in college, and we both took our MCATs twice. The first time we took it together on the same day, second time as well on the same day, just different places. So we're going to be talking about some of the questions that we have been asked about the MCAT. What's important, what's not important. We're going to start medical school in August, so we thought that it was only fitting that we kind of go back to our trauma bond and talk a little bit about the MCAT. They've met you before.
Stop. I need to pretend like you're not next to me. Stop. And Cody's under my armpit right now.
Cody! So the first couple of questions are going to be from when you're starting your studying phase, like your content review and just seeing where you are before you actually start. So the first question is, how much do you think you can improve from your diagnostic exam all the way until your real test?
I'm going first. I think that what my brother, who's also a medical student, and all of his medical student friends told me was like, don't put too much pressure on yourself for the diagnostic. The first time that I took a diagnostic, I hadn't taken some of the core classes that were required. I started at a 489 and I jumped up a pretty significant amount from that. So I think that as long as you're not at like the 0th percentile, I wouldn't be too concerned. And you can definitely jump because you're not expected to do well because you've never seen the type of questions. You have like no study strategy or like test taking strategies. But I feel like everybody can jump like at least 10, 15 points.
You definitely improve a lot throughout your full lengths, but there's no telling how much you're going to improve on the actual test, right? Because they're all so different. If you like lock in, I think that you can improve 10, 15, sometimes even 20 points. It just depends how much room there is for improvement and then how you do on your full length. There's a lot of room for improvement when you start at like the 480s or even less. I've heard people that have started way less and have jumped up to like an insane score. So, anywhoomst, when do you finish reviewing content and how far into your studying should you finish reviewing content? I've answered this in another one of my videos, but what do you...
Oh, we're not linking it?
How much into studying are you done reviewing content?
I don't know if you're going to have the same answer as me, but for me, I don't think that you ever finish reviewing content.
That was what I said.
That's your answer? Yeah, like I don't think that there's ever a point for anybody, even the people who get like the 95th percentile, where you're like, okay, like I know everything that could be tested on the MCAT and I feel good. Like,
impossible.
It just doesn't happen like that. I think that like reviewing the cores, like I know that we spent some time reviewing like Gen Chem because we hadn't taken that since like freshman year, and obviously it's like integrated into other classes, but not with like the stuff they test you on the MCAT. So we did that type of review, and when I took my MCAT the second time, I didn't really do content review. I would just do practice questions, and then when I got something wrong, even if one of the answer options was something that I was like, oh, I kind of forgot about that, then I would be like, okay, let me review that for like 25 minutes. Everything that I like kind of forgot, and I was using that to guide my content.
Yeah, I think the way that you do content review as you get closer to your test changes. At first, we were doing a lot of actual learning,
like watching
YouTube videos, taking notes. I downloaded some free PDFs of like Kaplan books and stuff like that. But there's a bunch of free resources that I think we both use, and just taking more notes at first to kind of learn more material. And then as you get closer to the test and as you progress through your content review, it feels less like you're studying and more like you're reviewing. So you're going back and forth between questions that you're using and textbooks or YouTube videos or explanations. Honestly, ChatGPT a lot of the time.
Chat was the best, like
to explain a lot of answers. And then that way you're doing less learning and more reviewing, but you're still not stopping the learning process.
The mistake that we made, that I think every single person like studies for the MCAT generally makes, is spending so much time on content review because it's an overwhelming amount of information. It kind of depends like where you're at. Like if you haven't taken Gen Chem like we did for a long time, then it's definitely important to have like maybe one day where you're doing a little Gen Chem review. Like if you get UWorld, which is a necessity, it'll tell you like what topics you get wrong the most. And I would do only those questions and then do a full, 2-hour revisit to thermodynamics and then do 25 questions, like passage and non-passage based on thermodynamics, until I started feeling more confident with it.
It was just kind of back and forth between practicing and then reviewing.
The next question was, what Anki deck did you use? Do you prefer pre-made decks or making your own? So this is like, you should start doing Anki at least for Psych Soc. I was helping out one of my friends like studying for the MCAT, and she hasn't really started formally studying, and I told her like you could start Psych Soc Anki cards now, because it's just like they say that it's not memorization, but it 100% is.
When it comes to Anki deck I use Miles Down. I didn't like Jack Sparrow.
I didn't like the Jack Sparrow one either.
I didn't like the organization
it was
of
funky.
it.
Yeah.
Funky. I started off by making my own Anki decks once I started full-length reviews. Like, if I got a question wrong about amino acids, let's say, and which amino acid side chain is negatively charged, then I would make an Anki card, a mnemonic device or something, and put it on the card with some sort of picture so that I don't get a question wrong again on that same subject. So I feel like both of our motivation for Anki as well was not getting the same thing wrong again.
It's just like embarrassing when you get the question, you're like, damn, I did this 30 minutes ago and I low-key don't remember it. But what I was going to say is I also started using Miles Down, and I also thought that it might be beneficial if I like were to make my own cards, but it's quite time consuming. For a review of questions you got wrong, I think it's amazing. But as far as like content review, like you should just download the Miles Down. It's really good. You can edit any of the Anki cards. So I would use the Miles Down card, and let's say it was Boyle's Law or something, and I just got a question wrong on Boyle's Law. Sometimes I'll put a picture of the question, like you can add it into the card. Every time I got that question, I had like a little extra like personal touch that I'm like, oh right, like this is why this matters. For Psych Soc specifically, I recommend making your own Anki deck. I think that the biggest like barrier that most people feel with Psych Soc is that a lot of the answer choices sound the same, like social blank. There's like 8 different terms that's like social blank. Stuff like that, and putting them on the same card, because for the majority of Psych Soc, they put answer choices
that
together
are very similar
to like,
confuse you.
Yeah.
What was your worst or hardest section? Okay, this changed a lot while I was studying. My arch nemesis is biochem. I think you know this.
Yeah.
Because we're opposites.
That's my favorite section.
I hate biochem. I think that it's super freaking broad and vague, and I just really hated it. Yeah, I think that was it for me, because I did enjoy Chem Phys, and I didn't mind Psych because it was a lot of memorization. I didn't like learning Psych because it was so much memorization, but it wasn't the hardest section.
No, it's definitely not the hardest, but it definitely depends on like your perspective. I have never liked chem, and in college, like Rachi would always help me with Gen Chem, and alternatively, Rachi never liked bio, so I would always help Rachi study for bio.
It checks out.
Going into bio, I was like the most confident because I was like, oh, this is like everything that I like love learning. To me, cars is the hardest because we obviously all know how to read.
Well, you'd think so.
No matter what I did, I could not get my car score up. Everything else went up, and that just stayed stagnant.
I do think that cars is one of the hardest to improve in.
Cars hater for life. I'm sorry.
This one is probably the question that I get asked the most, and it's, what was one thing that you did that increased your score the most? Me personally, it was once I started locking in on Psych Soc. That was probably when my score started to go up the most, because you kind of forget with how difficult biochem and Chem Phys are that there is, another section that's equally as important. Once I actually started to spend more time on Psych Soc, I realized that a lot of the material is recycled, and you're bound to get the same vocab and concepts over and over again because there's just not as much information. So once I realized that, then I was able to really improve my score. I feel like that helped me the most.
Yeah, I think that the majority of us, when you start studying for the MCAT, it's like quite an overwhelming experience, obviously. So when you're studying for Psych Soc, it feels silly, because compared to what you're doing in chem and bio, it's like, oh, I will be able to get this closer to the exam date. Yeah. But that's a huge mistake. And for more statistical reference from me, I got a 128 the first time I took the MCAT, but I didn't focus on Psych Soc at all. Didn't make my own Anki deck. I was like, I have a minor in Psych, like I'll be fine. Studied the sociology concepts because I wasn't familiar with them, but that was about it. And everything that I was doing was chem and bio. And then the second time around, I started really focusing on Psych Soc because I was like almost embarrassed that I got a 128 because it feels like a much easier section. And so then I was able to get a 131 on the actual exam. And that's like the only thing that actually like really boosted my score. Everything else kind of went up like 1 point.
There's less chances of you getting something that you're not familiar with or you don't know. Even the passages aren't really that important.
I actually loved them. I thought they were really interesting.
No, but I mean that you don't need the passages often to answer the 100%.
Questions. And so like just kind of finishing the day when you're already burnt, because that's what you're going to be when you're in the Psych Soc section. Burnt. Yeah. Burnt ale.
Burnt crispy. Next question. How do you deal with failure, like seeing your score go down?
If you guys have an answer, let me know.
Valid crash out. Yeah, if you guys know the answer to this question, please comment down below.
No,
This is the worst question because you know that I crash out and I've watched you also panic.
Yeah.
Like I've cried in the library before.
Rachi and I, it's really wonderful to have someone to study with, and if you don't, you should find yourself a Rach. But we would take our full lengths, like maybe like a couple of cubicles away. So after the section would end, we would like look at each other and be like, no.
I'd be like, bro, what'd you put for that question?
And then obviously we don't want to be like, this is what I got, because like you don't know what the other person got. But
so we
I
just
would
kind of
like
stare at each other and be like,
no, I would look at Rach and I'd be like, something didn't go right. So anytime I don't do as good as I think I will, I suffer with it a lot. So I actually don't really know how to fix this, but some of the things that I've attempted that I think have partially alleviated that is just knowing like, okay, this isn't the real MCAT. Like, I'm taking this full length to understand where my weaknesses are. Like, I can't beat myself up every time my score fluctuates, because if I'm expecting to take my MCAT and get the 515 that I want, then like, what's the point of studying? Like, I should just take it right now. So then I would just sit down and just break it down. And I think that the best way to learn is from the questions you get wrong. Especially, Rachi has talked about this in a different video, but like having that whiteboard.
You watch my videos?
Having that whiteboard, like MCAT, what's it called?
The MCAT dry erase board.
Yeah, it's not a board, it's more of a folder packet.
Okay,
but
sorry.
I would have that, and then the next day I would go to review, and I would try to do the question again.
But you would like compare to your old.
And I would be like, where did my work go wrong? And in the beginning of the MCAT, when I first started studying, I would notice that a lot of them, not that I didn't know it, but I was so excited that I knew it that I didn't actually take the time to like just relax and actually do the problem. There was a question that I showed Rachi that I did 10 divided by 2 is 8. Like, I'm the type of person, I'm literally writing out 15 divided by 3, like, because I just need to see it.
I think, honestly, dealing with failure is understanding that it's not really failure to not do well on your full length.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I like Clarkson.
Sometimes you need to see that drop to remember, like, this isn't easy, this isn't going to be easy, and I need to continue putting in the work and consistency. So just use it as like motivation,
as fuel.
My anxiety is my biggest, like, that's why I'm so
my downfall. But it's normal to be nervous, it's normal to not do well when you're taking a full length. You're not expected to get a 528. This is like one of the hardest tests, right?
My brother in medical school told me that he hasn't taken step 2, but he said that step 1 was easier than the MCAT, which is like hard for me to wrap my head around because I was looking at his questions and they look insane. But it's because the MCAT is testing you on topics that have nothing to do with being a doctor. They're just trying to see how well were you able to absorb information from undergrad.
And how well can you manage stress? How well can you perform under a stressful situation? So once I realized that too, it kind of made me feel better while I was taking the test and be like, they want me to panic. So I'm not gonna panic. Did you not do that? That I'd be like, no, they want me to freak out.
No, I mean, I did my best to like stay calm, and then I would see a question that's like, I know that whoever wrote this is miserable in their life. Like, you did this on purpose just to mess with me, and I'd be like, that's fine, like, I'll just get it right, and it'll be fine.
I should have tracked my heart rate while I was taking
I wish I had my Oura ring when I was taking the MCAT.
0.
Yeah. There's nothing that we can say that's going to make you feel better if you go from a 505.
Don't feel bad about it. If you're not doing well, you're going to do well later. You're learning.
Yeah. If you go from a 505 to a 502, like, you don't want to make excuses for yourself, but you can also think, like, okay, what did I not do correctly today? Like, did I not get enough sleep?
Also, it's up to chance, right? Because
it's a little bit of luck.
Sometimes you get a straight biochem section that's like glorious chef's kiss. You know every single question. And then the next full length will be everything exactly that you don't know. So it's a little bit of luck, so don't feel bad, because it doesn't mean that you don't know the material or that you're not studying right or anything. It just means, well, unless it's like something drastically dropped. But it just means that, you know, you're learning. It's okay.
Try to look at your full lengths as like, what's my average?
Yeah, that's what I did. I had a spreadsheet where I would just average them out, and then I would average them per section too.
Yeah, and also, like, maybe, for example, you thought the chem phys section was really, really hard, and everything else stayed kind of the same, or maybe it went up, but the chem section went down drastically. Then you're like, okay, if I didn't do that poorly on the chem, like, I would have gotten a normal score, so maybe I shouldn't lock into chem phys. So, like, analyze each section. Don't look at just the number. You're more than a number.
Yeah, instead of seeing what class helped you the most on your exam or exam prep.
Biochem, physics, physiology. I saw this video on my TikTok last night, and it was like, I've never taken physics 2 and I got a 131 on the chem phys. I don't know how you did that. It seems quite literally impossible.
I genuinely don't know how people can take the MCAT, but okay, here's the thing. If you feel comfortable learning a course by yourself, and you're one of those people that does very well learning on your own, then I understand you, but you need to be very, very like rigorous in your learning. And you need to be at the same level as people that are taking the course in order to do well in that section. That's my opinion. Because if not, then you're just going to learn a couple of equations and formulas, but you're not going to understand how to apply it when it's in a passage.
Yeah. Like, if you're that kid that's always been, like, 4.0 GPA and, like, you love to learn and you pick up things quick, maybe it'll be good for you. Me, personally, I'm, like, a normal person, and...
Was that a diss?
To myself.
For those of you that are maybe juniors, sometimes even sophomores that just want to get ahead and want to start studying, try starting with courses that you've already taken, like Bio 1, Bio 2, Chem 1, Chem 2, Orgo, because those are things that you feel more comfortable with, and later on, when you have taken everything, you're going to lose comfort in those classes that you took a while ago. So if you're a sophomore, if you're a junior, and you want to get a head start, don't worry that you haven't taken biochem. Just start with what you have taken. I wouldn't rush into it because ultimately, the schools see every score that you get, every MCAT that you take. Obviously not your practice, but like when you actually take them, right? So when that happens, you want to be able to say, okay, I was improving, or I waited this long because I wanted to take the courses and feel better prepared. Because you're not doing anything by trying to get ahead and taking your first MCAT before you took biochem just to have to restudy, take biochem, and take it again. You're not really saving time.
Not to mention that studying for the MCAT is like a sacrifice. Like you miss out on a lot of events that maybe you would have gone to, but you were studying for the MCAT. Like we studied for it in our final semester of senior year of college. So you can imagine that there were times that maybe we didn't go on a bar crawl. We went to a party school.
Okay,
we didn't go on a senior bar crawl.
At FSU, when you're a senior, you do a senior bar crawl where your entire group of friends dresses up the same and you go on a bar crawl. You bar hop, you go to different bars and everyone's dressed funny. Like imagine 100 Spider-Men.
It's like Halloween, but it's like a random day in May.
Yeah, actually. But we didn't get to do it because we were so locked in on our MCAT and doing all of this graduation stuff and trying to figure out all of our lives that we couldn't participate. So there are certain things that you're not going to be able to participate in, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be worth it.
You just don't want to have to do that twice, like us. The only other class that if you have the ability in your schedule to take, but it's not required for med school, would be social psych, because 80% of the psych-soc section I learned in social psych.
Makes sense.
So it was like I didn't see anything for the first time once I was taking the MCAT, so that was really nice.
Also, for people that are concerned about orgo, the full lengths at least are not super orgo heavy.
It's not orgo heavy.
Some full lengths were.
But it's not orgo heavy on the stuff that your professors like make it super complex, like the 14th step of this arrow pushing mechanism. It's more like the basics, like, you know, like what reagent would you need, or like what happens. Yeah, do you need a diene and a dienophile for Diels-Alder? Like what happens if you were to add an alcohol? Like a different experiment happened and they added a carboxylic acid. Like now what happens? So it's like kind of like the basics
understanding
of orgo.
The foundation of orgo, basically. Yeah. Any videos or YouTube channels you recommend? We talked about this a little bit before, but Yusuf Hassan, love him.
IFD is like a pair of siblings who both studied very hard and got great scores on their MCAT, and they're both amazing teachers, and they have a website with a bunch of resources and practice exams, and they have this one video that's like a psych-soc review that if I close my eyes, I could tell you like every single word and exactly what they're drawing. And it was about like myopia, which I was like struggling a lot with. They have great videos.
They have good explanation videos. Who else? And then
they also do review videos of like AMC full lengths. Like they go through it with you, which is obviously amazing.
Yeah, I think those were really the only.
Those are the two that we used like persistently.
Next, how was test day? And do you have any advice for the day of the exam? Test day was absolutely miserable and I was shitting myself. My first ever video, I think, was a vlog of us finishing up to get ready to take our first MCAT, and I brought you guys into exam day, and you have to scan your palms. It's very quiet. You walk in, it's very quiet. It's usually like a cubicle-y looking dark office. That's how I would describe it. We took our tests at different places both times, but it's kind of like that. Everybody's nervous, everybody's quiet. You come in with like a little Ziploc bag with a little coffee and your cheese stick or whatever you want to have.
Bring a better lunch than that.
Like if you're literally signing up for prison is what it feels like. Like they're gonna have you fucking squat and
it's cough. Like, damn, I'm really gonna disconnect for 8 hours.
They call you up by a little number. Did you have numbers?
Mm-hmm.
And then you give them your ID and you tell them what test you're going to take. They scan your palms in around a little mouse looking thing. You put your stuff in a locker, you go in, they pat you down,
they
shake
you
your
take
hood.
off your glasses and show it.
Yeah, they weighed my glasses to see if there was anything
like
on
a recorder.
them.
Interesting.
And then you have to do that every time you go in or out of the room. So that's it.
Obviously, like, don't try to do anything. This is like a very heavily regulated exam.
Dude, do not like,
this
try.
is not the time or place. Like, not even don't even bring a sticky note because you will like never be able to take the MCAT again. Like, this is not a joke.
They make you shake everything head to toe. And yeah, you do have breaks where you can go to the bathroom, but if you come back late and your test started, your time is gone.
Yeah. They don't care.
You have to raise your hand.
Even if the hand palm is like malfunctioning
your hand
palm scan is like malfunctioning. It took me like a minute to get back into the room after I took a pee break in between sections, and I was like, oh my god, like I cannot miss a minute of cars, and that was quite stressful. I didn't, but like make sure that you're like thinking you're not allowed to wear a watch.
You have to look at the clock and stuff. Make sure you're coming back on time.
Yeah. Something that I will say, I don't know how your vibe was of where you tested, but the first time I took it was in Jacksonville since I was up in Tallahassee, and it was like the best location ever. It was like quiet. It was so quiet that like I felt like I didn't even need my headphones. It was like super comfortable. I felt like very calm in that space. So I wasn't concerned about when I took it the second time, like signing up. But if I could do it again, I would read some reviews and like see where it's located, because the second time I took it was in Fort Lauderdale and the office was located next to I-95. And the headphones, which nobody freaking told me, don't fit a small female's head. So every full length that I've ever taken is with my Beats. And like, I don't know if I have some sort of simulation thing, but I like really like this feeling. And it just makes me like lock in because it's like cutting out the world. So for the first time ever, I took a full length without headphones on, and I really feel like it was like totally messing with me because I didn't have like, my ears felt like I felt so naked. And then this is all I hear. Close your eyes, close your eyes. Because people in the room, not everyone's taking their MCAT. So people had written responses. They're clicking on the keyboard. You hear the click of the mouse. Like, I was losing it, and
people coughing.
Yeah, like not to make excuses, but I really think that diminished my performance on test day.
Because I almost wish we were in a room alone.
I wish that they had individual like open cubicles or something that had
like little hallways. You know, like a hallway ass room where it's just me at the end.
They make you take off your bracelets and stuff, but if someone's like cracking their knuckles, which is like a stim for me of sorts, I was like, I can't focus. Research your testing center and go to the center before you sign up for it to kind of see, because I could just hear, close your eyes again, close your eyes. And I was like, I can't. The cars. Was that not obvious? So for the first...
So monitor your time.
Review where you're signing up for the test and make sure that it's not next to a major highway. Make sure that you are comfortable taking an exam without noise-canceling headphones on, because if you are a female of a rather small stature, they are not going to fit your head. They're not going to fit your head.
She's traumatized.
So the next question is if we did anything while we were studying that ended up making test day easier. Everybody will tell you to make sure that you mimic test day environments, which is really hard because, at least for me, every time I'm taking a full length, I know that it's obviously not the real thing, so I'm much more relaxed. But in terms of the environment, we would go to the library and we would use desktops and keyboards and put ourselves in cubicles because...
Oh my God, a mouse.
And we got mouses. Even when we were using our laptop, we used mice. Don't take full lengths on a laptop. Take it on a desktop with a keyboard and with a mouse.
And headphones.
Buy a mouse, preferably not wireless, which Rachi didn't do. Because you don't have a wireless mouse on test day exam, you need to be comfortable with the annoyance of the wire.
Something that helped me was toward the end, when I was getting closer to the real exam, was eating what I was going to eat during the actual exam to put myself in the mindset of eating like a piece of freaking string cheese before I walk in. And I feel like that kind of placeboed me sort of into being in the same mindset when I was studying as I was into the test, and kind of made me more comfortable and calm because I wasn't as nervous.
There are actually psychological studies that if you chew a specific flavor of gum while you're studying and then you chew that flavor of gum while you're taking an exam, it actually like helps bring back memories. So I 100% agree with that. Make yourself uncomfortable when you're taking the exam, because you're going to be uncomfortable when you go to the testing center. It's not going to be the library that you have come to like know and love because you study there 15 hours a day. Go to like random libraries, put yourself like with distractions around you.
Yeah, I talked about this before as well, but just even if you go to the same place, using different cubicles, different areas of the library, different floors of the library, that way you're not so used to sitting in the same place and taking the test. You don't want to be too comfortable, because ultimately you're most likely never going to have been in that cubicle that you're going to be taking the test. And you don't want that to add into your nervousness or your anxiety of taking the test. So if you maintain yourself uncomfortable taking the test, you're going to be less uncomfortable when you're taking the
That's the only regret I really have.
Okay, how important do you think your score is into getting an acceptance?
An acceptance?
My thing always was, I don't care where the fuck I go, I want to be a doctor. And I was scared that I was not going to get to do that. So for those people, how important is your score?
If you feel like you have a score that maybe you're like, is this good enough to apply with? I think if you have above a 500, you're going to get in somewhere if you have put in the dedication to like school. If you're a well-rounded applicant, like I do think that the MCAT is unfortunately a pretty big factor that they look at, because besides my MCAT, which I wish was a little bit higher, I think that my general application is really good. I have like tons of research and clinical experience, and like we've worked with like so many different groups of people, and like my interest in medicine is obvious. Like nobody would question it. But for example, the University of Miami, which is my dream school, has kind of like a minimum cutoff of the applicants that they're even considering, and it's usually around 512. So I got into lots of schools, 4 so far, but I didn't get into because I know it's because my MCAT is too low and not because I'm not a good person. So I mean,
it depends on where you want to go.
Yeah.
A lot of schools do have a cutoff or a minimum requirement. Some schools it's 500, some schools it's lower, some schools won't disclose, so they won't tell you. They're just kind of going to leave you in the dust. So that is a factor. If you have a specific school that you want to get into, there are certain requirements, right? But if you're like me and you said, I don't care what school I get into, I just want to become a doctor, your MCAT score is obviously going to be important, because you need to show growth and determination and the fact that you are capable to take those board exams later on. But I don't think it's as rigorous of a score that you need to show if you just want to get in to one place. It only takes one. My whole thing was, if you want to be a doctor, you will become a doctor.
Yeah, 100%.
I have friends that went to the Caribbean, and I have friends that went to freaking Johns Hopkins medical school. The MCAT, it's not always what you put into it that you get out. I mean, we put so much time into it, and we still didn't get a 528. And a lot of people won't, and that's realistic. But I think setting realistic expectations with how you're doing is also really important, so that you don't feel let down. It's just the unfortunate truth. And that doesn't mean that you won't get into the schools, because there's people that have below a 510 and they have an amazing well-rounded application and they still get in. And there's people that I've been seeing even on TikTok that I sent you that have been getting 490s and they're getting into school, and that's amazing. And honestly,
I would have never thought that could happen. That's why I put my cutoff at 500 for...
It's very personal. The whole thing is very personal. It depends on your application. It depends on the school receiving it and when they receive it, and you know how much you've done, I guess.
Yeah, if there's like specific schools that you're like, if I don't get into this school, then like I'm gonna reapply. If you're like in that type of scenario, the MSAR, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Something like that from AMC. It shows you the ranges of applicants that got accepted to that school. So I obviously applied to a bunch of reach schools that have like never accepted somebody with my score, or at least in the previous years, but you know, you have to at least try. But for the MD schools that I decided to apply to, even though I didn't really want to go to them, was like, had they ever had applicants who were accepted with my score, even if there was 4% of applicants that had gotten in with my score, I was like, okay, so I have a chance. Like, they're looking at people with this score, and it gives you like a little box and whiskers. So like the median might be, for example, like a 512, but the minimum that they've ever accepted is a 505. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I definitely fit within that range. So like I should apply because I think that I have a really great application otherwise. So that was a super helpful tool if you're in that boat.
Those were some of the questions that people have asked us either on Instagram or questions that we have had and our friends have asked us, and even in the YouTube comments. So if you guys have any other questions or want to comment or let us know anything about what we've said.
No, but in all seriousness, even if it feels like the silliest little question ever, me and Rachi watched a lot of these while we were taking our MCAT because you have like no insight. And so like one of my guilty pleasures now is helping people who are about to take the MCAT because you really do obtain so much information from taking it.
It's kind of like a trauma bond.
Yeah, it's like when you meet like the juniors in your high school and they've already taken that class and they like give you all of their notes and it's like, oh my god, where would I be without this? That's how I felt. It's important to have people that can kind of guide you, that you can ask questions to without judgment, and that's what she is for you, and I'd be happy to help.
So if you're first gen, if you don't know anybody that's taking the MCAT, or if you don't have anybody to ask these questions, then definitely let us know. I mean, I'm gonna make Didi look through the comments too. Let us know if you want more Didi content. If you're tired.
No, don't because I'll get upset.
Bye.